The scrub brush moved in steady circles across the cold metal floor. Maya Chen had been cleaning this same spot for 20 minutes. But the dark stain refused to disappear completely. Her knees ached from kneeling on the hard surface, and her back protested with every motion. The detention center's lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows that made everything look gray and lifeless. "Still there?" called out Jenna from across the corridor. The older woman was working on her own section, mopping the floors with the same tired rhythm they'd all learned over the past 6 months. Maya sat back on her heels and wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. "Yeah. Still there. This one's really stuck." The blood had appeared 3 days ago after the latest round of interrogations. The alien guards had dragged someone through this hallway, leaving a trail of crimson drops that led from the interrogation rooms to the medical bay. Maya had cleaned up similar messes before, but this blood seemed different somehow. It had a strange shimmer to it, almost like tiny flecks of silver were mixed in with the red. The detention center held about 200 humans from Earth's failed colony ship. When the Zephyrian Empire had intercepted their vessel 6 months ago, they'd been expecting to find criminals or rebels. Instead, they'd discovered families, scientists, and farmers looking for a new home among the stars. The aliens had been disappointed but decided to keep them anyway. Free labor was always useful. Maya dipped her brush in the cleaning solution again and attacked the stain with renewed effort. The chemical smell burned her nose, but she'd gotten used to it. She'd gotten used to a lot of things since being captured. The terrible food that tasted like cardboard. The cramped sleeping quarters where 30 women shared a space meant for 10. The constant fear that tomorrow might be your turn for questioning. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. Maya looked up to see 2 Zephyrian guards approaching. They were tall and lean, with gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. Their faces had no expression, just cold black eyes that seemed to look right through humans like they were insects. "You," one of them said, pointing at Maya. "Come." Maya's heart jumped into her throat. She'd managed to avoid being singled out for 6 months. Keeping her head down and following orders, she looked around desperately, hoping they meant someone else. But the corridor was empty, except for Jenna, who had stopped mopping and was staring with wide, frightened eyes. "I said come," the guard repeated, its voice like grinding metal. Maya slowly got to her feet, her legs shaking. She set down the scrub brush and walked toward the guards, trying to keep her breathing steady. They fell into step on either side of her, their claws clicking against the metal floor with each step. They led her through corridors she'd never seen before, past doors marked with alien symbols she couldn't read. The detention center was much larger than she'd realized. They passed through a section that looked more like offices, with windows that showed the outside world. Maya caught a glimpse of purple sky and 3 moons hanging low on the horizon. Finally, they stopped in front of a door that was different from the others. It was larger, made of some kind of dark wood instead of metal, and had intricate carvings around the edges. The guards opened it and pushed her inside. The room was nothing like what Maya had expected. Instead of another gray interrogation chamber, she found herself in what looked like a library. The walls were lined with books and strange crystal devices that glowed softly. A large desk sat in the center, and behind it stood a Zephyrian unlike any she'd seen before. This one was older, with white markings on its gray skin that looked like tattoos. It wore robes instead of the simple uniforms the guards had. And when it looked at her, its eyes seemed more alert, more intelligent than the others. "Sit," it said, gesturing to a chair in front of the desk. Its voice was smoother than the guards, almost musical. Maya sat down carefully, her hands folded in her lap. She tried not to fidget, but her heart was still racing. "I am Scholar Vex Han," the alien said. "I study your species for the Empire. You have been cleaning the detention levels, yes?" "Yes, sir," Maya replied, unsure of the proper way to address a Zephyrian scholar. Vex Han moved around the desk and activated one of the crystal devices. It projected a 3-dimensional image into the air between them. Maya gasped when she recognized what it was. The hallway where she'd been scrubbing, shown in perfect detail. 3 days ago you cleaned blood from Corridor 7, Vexhan said. Tell me about this blood. Tell me about this blood. Maya's mouth went dry. Had she done something wrong by cleaning it? Were humans not supposed to touch certain areas? I just cleaned it like I always do. Someone had been hurt, and there were drops leading from the interrogation rooms. Describe the blood's appearance. It was red, but it had these tiny silver flecks in it. I've never seen anything like it before. Maya paused, then added, it was really hard to clean. Most blood comes up pretty easily, but this stuff seemed to stick to the floor. Vexhan's eyes narrowed, and he manipulated the crystal device to zoom in on the spot where Maya had been working. Even in the projection, she could see the faint shimmer in the dried blood. Did you touch this blood directly? Vexhan asked. Well, yes. I mean, not with my bare hands, but with the brush and cloth. Why? Is that bad? Instead of answering, Vexhan pressed something on his desk, and the door opened. 2 different guards entered. These ones were larger and more heavily armed than the usual detention center guards. They wore armor that gleamed like black metal and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Take her to Medical Bay 3, Vexhan ordered. Full genetic scan. Priority classification. The guards moved toward Maya, and she jumped up from her chair. Wait, what's happening? What did I do wrong? Vexhan studied her for a long moment. You may have done nothing wrong, human. Or you may have stumbled upon something that could change the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. We shall see. The guards escorted Maya through more corridors, but these ones were different again. Everything was cleaner here, more advanced. The walls had a subtle glow, and she could hear the hum of sophisticated machinery. They passed through several security checkpoints where guards scanned them with devices that made her skin tingle. The medical bay was unlike anything Maya had ever seen. The walls were covered with screens showing scrolling alien text and complex diagrams. Strange machines beeped and hummed in corners, and the air smelled clean and sterile, like a hospital but somehow more advanced. A medical technician was waiting, another Zephyrian. But this one wore white robes and had additional arms that ended in delicate instruments instead of claws. It gestured for Maya to sit on what looked like an examination table. This will not harm you, the technician said in accented but clear English. Hold still. A device descended from the ceiling and began scanning Maya with beams of blue light. She felt nothing, but the screens around the room suddenly came alive with information. Lines of data scrolled past too fast for her to read, and complex charts appeared and disappeared. The technician's eyes widened as it read the results. It made several urgent hand gestures to the guards, who immediately activated communication devices on their armor. What is it? Maya asked. What do the scans show? The technician ignored her and continued working, running additional scans with different devices. Each one seemed to confirm whatever the first scan had revealed. Finally, it stepped back and spoke to the guards in rapid Zephyrian. The guards' entire demeanor changed. Where before they had treated her like just another prisoner, now they looked at her with something like fear. One of them spoke into his communication device with urgent, clipped words. Please, Maya said. Can someone tell me what's going on? The medical bay doors burst open, and more guards poured in. These were different again. Elite soldiers by the look of them, with more advanced armor and weapons. Behind them came a Zephyrian Maya could tell was important just by how everyone else moved around him. This one was taller than the others, with elaborate markings covering his skin and robes that seemed to shift color as he moved. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute authority. Secure this area, he commanded. No one enters without my direct permission. He turned to the medical technician. Confirm the readings. The technician activated the scanning device again, and the same results appeared on the screens. The important Zephyrian studied them for a long time, his face unreadable. Impossible, he finally said. Run it again. They ran the scan 3 more times, each one showing the same results. The important Zephyrian turned to look at Maya, with an expression she couldn't interpret. Human, he said. What is your name? Maya Chen, she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Maya Chen, he repeated slowly, as if testing how the words sounded. Do you know anything about your ancestry? Your bloodline? Maya shook her head. I'm just a farmer's daughter from the colonies. There's nothing special about my family. The Zephyrian exchanged glances with his guards. It appears you are mistaken about that. He paused, studying her face carefully. The blood you cleaned contained genetic markers that we have not seen in over 300 years. Markers that should not exist in any living being. I don't understand, Maya said. The blood belongs to the royal house of Zephyr, the important Zephyrian continued. More specifically, to the heir apparent, who was supposedly killed in the revolution 3 centuries ago. According to our scans, you carry the same genetic markers. Maya felt like the room was spinning. That's impossible. I'm human. I'm not even from your galaxy. Genetics do not lie, the Zephyrian said. Somehow, impossibly, you are descended from Zephyrian royalty. Which means... He paused, and Maya could see him working through the implications. Which means what? Which means you may have a claim to the Zephyrian throne that supersedes the current emperor's. The room fell completely silent. Even the humming machines seemed to quiet down. Maya stared at him in shock. You're saying I'm some kind of alien princess? I am saying that you carry the blood of the true Zephyrian royal line, blood that many believed was extinct. He turned to his guards. Triple the security around this facility. No one is to know about this discovery until we understand its full implications. As the guards rushed to carry out his orders, Maya sat on the examination table, her mind reeling. 6 months ago, she'd been a simple farmer's daughter, looking for a new life among the stars. Now she might be the rightful ruler of an alien empire that had enslaved her people. The important Zephyrian approached her again. My name is General Thexmore, military advisor to the Emperor. Until we determine what to do with this information, you will be moved to secure quarters. You will be treated with the respect due to your possible station, but you will not be allowed to leave. What about the other humans? My friends in the detention center? They will remain where they are for now. This discovery changes nothing for them, yet. General Thexmore signaled to the elite guards. Escort her to the royal quarters in the secure wing. Full protection detail. As the guards surrounded her, Maya caught a glimpse of her reflection in one of the medical screens. She looked the same as always. Brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Brown eyes. Ordinary human face. Nothing about her appearance suggested she might be descended from alien royalty, but as they led her away from the medical bay, she thought about the strange shimmer in the blood she'd been cleaning. Had she somehow recognized it on a genetic level? Had some part of her known that it belonged to someone like her? The royal quarters were in a part of the facility Maya had never imagined existed. The corridors here were wider, with actual windows that showed the alien landscape outside. The walls were decorated with murals depicting Zephyrian history, and soft lighting made everything feel warm and welcoming. Her room was larger than the entire sleeping area she'd shared with 30 other women. It had a real bed with soft sheets, a private bathroom with running water, and windows that looked out over a garden filled with strange but beautiful plants. But despite the luxury, Maya knew she was still a prisoner. The guards outside her door were there to protect her, but also to keep her contained, and somewhere in this facility, the blood that had started it all was being analyzed by scientists who understood its implications far better than she did. Maya sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process everything that had happened. This morning, she'd been scrubbing floors and worrying about her next meal. Now she was potentially the most important person in the Zephyrian Empire, with a claim to a throne she'd never wanted. Outside her window, the 3 moons were rising higher in the purple sky. Somewhere out there was Earth, where her family probably thought she was dead. Somewhere else was the colony world she'd been trying to reach when the Zephyrians captured their ship. And here on this alien world, she was about to become the center of a political storm that could reshape the galaxy. Maya pulled her knees up to her chest and stared out at the alien landscape. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, she was still just a human girl, who'd been in the wrong place at the right time, cleaning blood that belonged to family she'd never known existed. The guards outside her door spoke in low voices, and she caught fragments of their conversation in Basic, the common language of the galaxy. Words like revolution, succession, and civil war drifted through the door. Maya closed her eyes and tried to imagine what her parents would say if they knew their daughter might become an alien empress. They'd probably tell her to stay strong, to remember who she was no matter what title anyone tried to give her. She was still Maya Chen, farmer's daughter from Earth's colonies. Whatever Zephyrian blood flowed through her veins didn't change that, but it might give her the power to help her people. And maybe that was worth the price of a crown she'd never wanted. Outside, the alien night deepened, and Maya tried to sleep in a bed fit for royalty while dreaming of home. Maya woke to the sound of urgent voices outside her door. The alien sunrise painted her luxurious prison cell in shades of gold and purple, but the beauty was lost on her as she heard words like Imperial Fleet and emergency protocols being whispered by the guards. A soft chime announced someone's arrival. The door slid open to reveal a Zephyrian she hadn't seen before. This one female, with intricate silver markings on her gray skin and robes that seemed to be made of flowing liquid metal. "Good morning, Lady Maya," the Zephyrian said with a formal bow. "I am Counselor Zix Ara, advisor to the royal court. I have come to explain your situation and prepare you for what lies ahead." Maya sat up in bed, still wearing the simple work clothes from yesterday. The contrast between her appearance and the formal title felt absurd. "Lady Maya? Is that what we're calling me now?" Zixara entered the room and gestured to a small table near the window. Fresh food had been laid out. Not the terrible rations from the detention center, but actual meals that smelled delicious. "Your genetic testing has been confirmed by 3 independent laboratories. You carry the pure bloodline of House Zephyr, making you the rightful heir to the throne." "But I'm human," Maya protested, getting up to join the counselor at the table. "How is that even possible?" Zixara poured a steaming liquid into 2 cups. It smelled like tea but with a floral note Maya didn't recognize. 300 years ago, during the revolution that overthrew the old royal family, many believed that Prince Kethvar and his family were executed. But our historians now believe that the prince escaped with his young son, and somehow ended up on Earth. Maya took a careful sip of the tea. It was actually quite good. Not directly. Our records show that Prince Kethvar had always been fascinated by other species, particularly humans. He believed that the future of the galaxy lay in cooperation between races, not domination by one over others. This philosophy made him unpopular with the military faction that eventually staged the coup. Maya thought about this while eating what appeared to be some kind of fruit pastry. It tasted better than anything she'd had since being captured. So he fled to human space and had children with humans? It appears so. Over the centuries, his bloodline became diluted, but never completely disappeared. "You are proof that the royal line survived, even if it found refuge among the stars, in forms we never expected." The counselor activated a device that projected a holographic family tree into the air above the table. Maya could see names and faces stretching back through generations, with glowing lines connecting parents to children. At the bottom of the tree was her own face, connected by a thin but unbroken line to the original royal family. "This is incredible," Maya said, studying the projection. "But what does it mean practically? I can't just walk into the palace and claim the throne, can I?" Zixara's expression grew serious. "That is exactly what we need to discuss. Emperor Korthax has ruled for 50 years with an iron fist. He has expanded the empire through conquest and enslaved entire species. His legitimacy rests on the claim that the old royal line was extinct and he was elected by the people. But if I'm alive and can prove my bloodline, then his entire reign becomes illegitimate. The Zephyrian constitution, which he claims to uphold, clearly states that the monarchy takes precedence over elected rule when a legitimate heir exists." Maya set down her cup, her hand trembling slightly. "You're talking about overthrowing an emperor. That's treason, isn't it?" "Only if we fail," Zixara said with a slight smile. "If we succeed, it becomes justice." Before Maya could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and she could hear the sound of running feet in the corridors outside. Zixara immediately activated a communication device on her wrist. "What's happening?" she demanded. A voice responded in rapid Zephyrian. Maya couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clearly urgent. Zixara's face went pale. "The Emperor knows," she said to Maya. "Somehow, word of your discovery has reached the palace. An Imperial fleet is approaching this facility." The door burst open and General Thexmore strode in, his armor gleaming and his face grim. "We have perhaps 20 minutes before the Emperor's forces arrive. We need to move you now." "Move me where?" Maya asked, getting to her feet. "Anywhere but here. If Korthax gets his hands on you, you'll disappear permanently. The revolution dies with you." "What revolution?" "I never agreed to any revolution." General Thexmore stopped and looked at her directly. "Lady Maya, whether you choose it or not, your very existence is a revolution. The moment your bloodline was confirmed, you became a threat to the most powerful man in the galaxy. You can choose to fight for your rightful place and the freedom of all the enslaved peoples of the Empire. Or you can choose to run and hide. But you cannot choose to go back to scrubbing floors and pretending none of this happened." Maya looked between the general and the counselor, both of whom were watching her with desperate hope in their eyes. Through her window, she could see ships appearing in the sky. Sleek, deadly vessels that moved with predatory grace. What about the other humans in the detention center? If we leave them behind, they'll become hostages. Or worse. General Thex Moore admitted. "Korthax will use them to force your surrender." Maya closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of Jenna and all the other colonists who had just been looking for a new home among the stars. They hadn't asked for this any more than she had, but now their fates were tied to hers. "Then we don't leave them behind," she said firmly. "If I'm really some kind of princess, then those people are my responsibility too." General Thex Moore's eyes widened. "You want to evacuate 200 humans along with yourself?" "That's impossible. We have one ship hidden in the maintenance bay, built for perhaps 20 people. Then we make it work." Maya turned to Zixara. "You said I have a claim to the throne. That means I outrank the Emperor. Right? Technically yes, but no buts. I'm ordering you to save those people. All of them." The counselor and general exchanged glances. Finally, Thexmore nodded slowly. "As you command, Your Majesty." The title hit Maya like a physical blow, but there was no time to process it. Alarms were still blaring, and the ships outside were getting closer. The general activated his communication device and began barking orders in Zephyrian. "What's the plan?" Maya asked. "The maintenance bay connects to the detention levels through the waste processing tunnels," Thexmore explained, while coordinating with his forces. "My people can create a distraction in the main facility while we evacuate the humans through the tunnels." "What kind of distraction?" "The kind that makes a lot of noise and draws Imperial attention away from the parts of the facility we need to access." Zixara handed Maya a bundle of clothing. "You'll need to change. Those work clothes mark you as a prisoner, and if we're discovered, you need to look like someone worth following." The clothes were beautiful, flowing fabric that seemed to change color as she moved, cut in a style that was alien but somehow flattering. When Maya put them on, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. She looked like someone who could command armies. "Ready?" General Thexmore asked. Maya took a deep breath. "Ready." They moved through the facility's corridors with military precision. The general's soldiers had disabled security systems and cleared their path, but Maya could hear explosions echoing from other parts of the building. The distraction was working, but it wouldn't last long. The detention levels were in chaos when they arrived. The human prisoners had been awakened by the alarms and were huddled together, confused and frightened. When they saw Maya walking with Zephyrian soldiers, some of them looked at her with suspicion. "Maya?" Jenna pushed through the crowd. "What's happening? Why are you dressed like that?" "It's complicated," Maya said. "But we're getting everyone out of here. Right now." "Listen to her," General Thex Moore announced in English. This facility is under attack. If you want to live, follow our orders exactly. We're evacuating through the maintenance tunnels. One of the human men, an engineer named Roberts, stepped forward. Why should we trust you? You've kept us prisoner for months. Because, Maya said, finding strength in her voice she didn't know she had. I'm not asking you to trust them. I'm asking you to trust me. She turned to address all the prisoners. I know this looks impossible, but we have one chance to get out of here. The alternative is staying here when the Emperor's forces arrive, and I promise you that won't end well for any of us. The sound of approaching ships was getting louder. Through the detention center's small windows, Maya could see Imperial dropships beginning to land. Armored soldiers were pouring out, their weapons ready. Decide now, General Thexmore urged. Jenna was the first to step forward. I trust you, Maya. You've always looked out for us. One by one, the other humans began to follow. Within minutes, they had formed a line behind Maya and the general. Even Roberts, after a moment's hesitation, joined the group. The tunnels were dark and cramped, designed for machinery rather than people. Maya found herself crawling through spaces barely large enough for her body. With 200 other humans following behind, the sounds of battle echoed through the walls around them, growing closer with each passing minute. How much farther? Whispered someone behind her. Not far now, General Thexmore replied. The ship is just ahead. When they finally emerged into the maintenance bay, Maya's heart sank. The ship was indeed there, but it was much smaller than she had hoped. There was no way it could hold all of them comfortably. This is going to be tight, Thexmore admitted. Tight is better than dead, Roberts said grimly. They began loading people into the ship as quickly as possible. The cargo holds, passenger compartments, and even the engine room were packed with humans. Maya was pushed toward what appeared to be a command chair, but she shook her head. I'm not sitting comfortably while everyone else is cramped into storage closets. Your Majesty, Zixara said gently. The ship's command systems are keyed to royal genetic markers. You need to be in the pilot's seat for us to escape. Maya stared at the alien controls. I don't know how to fly this thing. The ship's artificial intelligence will handle most of the work. You just need to be present for the genetic authentication. With no other choice, Maya settled into the command chair. The moment her hands touched the controls, the ship came alive around her. Lights activated, screens displayed information in languages she somehow understood, and she could feel the ship's systems responding to her presence. Incredible, breathed Zixara. The ship recognizes you as legitimate royalty. These systems haven't responded to anyone in 3 centuries. .com. Through the ship's viewports, Maya could see Imperial soldiers breaking into the maintenance bay. Their weapons were raised, and their armor gleamed in the artificial light. We need to go, General Thexmore said urgently. Now. Maya looked at the controls, trying to understand what she was seeing. Somehow, impossibly, the symbols made sense to her. Her hands moved over the interface as if guided by instinct, and the ship's engines began to power up. Everyone hold on, she announced over the ship's communication system. The ship lifted off just as the Imperial soldiers reached their position. Energy blasts struck the hull, but the ancient ship's shields held. Maya guided them up through the facility's launch bay and out into the alien sky. Behind them, the detention center was swarming with Imperial forces. Ahead of them lay the vast expanse of space and the unknown. Where are we going? Maya asked as she struggled to keep the ship steady. There are resistance cells throughout the Empire, General Thexmore said. People who have waited 300 years for the return of the true royal line. With you as their leader, they will rally to our cause. Maya looked back at the cargo hold where 200 humans were packed together like refugees. These people had trusted her enough to follow her into the unknown, and now she was leading them into a galactic civil war. I hope I know what I'm doing, she muttered. You will learn, Zixara said confidently. Royal instinct is bred into your genes. The ship responds to you because you are meant for this. As they broke through the planet's atmosphere and entered space, Maya could see the full scope of the Imperial fleet that had come for her. Dozens of warships hung in orbit, their weapons trained on the surface below. But they were too late. The rightful heir to the Zephyrian throne was free. And across the galaxy, people who had lived under tyranny for centuries were about to discover that hope had not died with the old royal family. Maya Chen, farmer's daughter from Earth's colonies, was about to become the most wanted person in the galaxy. And despite her fear, she found herself looking forward to the challenge. The ancient royal ship drifted silently through the asteroid field, its stealth systems hiding them from Imperial sensors. Maya had been piloting for 6 hours straight, guided by instincts she didn't understand, and ship systems that responded to her genetic signature like they were extensions of her own body. In the cargo holds and cramped passenger compartments, 200 humans tried to make the best of their uncomfortable situation. The ship had life support for this many people, but barely. Food and water would become issues soon if they didn't find somewhere safe to land. Imperial Patrol, bearing 27 Mark IV, announced Lieutenant Krievel, one of General Thexmore's soldiers who was manning the sensor station. 3 destroyers, moving in standard search formation. Maya adjusted their course deeper into the asteroid field, threading the ship between massive rocks that could crush them if she made a mistake. But her hands moved over the controls with confidence that surprised her. The ship felt like a natural extension of her will. "How is this possible?" she asked Zixara, who stood beside the command chair monitoring various displays. "Yesterday I was scrubbing floors, and today I'm piloting a starship like I've been doing it my whole life. Royal blood carries more than just genetic markers," the counselor explained. "Your ancestors designed these ships to bond with their bloodline. The artificial intelligence is literally reading your DNA and providing the skills you need." On the main view screen, Maya could see one of the Imperial destroyers passing dangerously close to their hiding spot. Its hull was scarred from countless battles, and weapon ports bristled along its sides like the spines of some deadly creature. "They're not scanning randomly," General Thexmore observed from his position at the tactical station. "They know roughly where we are." How is that possible?" Maya asked. "I thought this ship was invisible to their sensors." "It is, but they have other ways of tracking us. Emperor Korthax didn't hold power for 50 years by being careless." As if summoned by their conversation, a new voice echoed through the ship's communication system. It was deep and commanding, with the kind of authority that made people listen, whether they wanted to or not. "This is Emperor Korthax, speaking directly to the pretender who claims royal blood." The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I know you can hear me. Child, your stolen ship is broadcasting on all frequencies whether you realize it or not." Maya looked at Zixara in alarm. "Is that true?" The counselor frantically checked her instruments. "Yes. There's some kind of automatic beacon we can't disable. It's part of the ship's core systems." The Emperor's voice continued. "You have something that belongs to me. 200 human slaves who represent significant economic value to the Empire. Return them, along with yourself. And I will consider showing mercy to your misguided followers." "Mercy," General Thexmore spat. "His mercy usually involves public executions. Furthermore," the Emperor went on, "I have taken the liberty of capturing several human colony ships that were en route to this sector. 3,000 of your people are currently in my custody. Surrender yourself within 12 hours, or they will join the countless other slaves who fuel our empire's expansion." The communication ended, leaving the command deck in stunned silence. Maya felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. 3,000 more humans were now prisoners because of her royal blood. "He's bluffing," Robert said from the doorway. The engineer had somehow squeezed his way up from the cargo hold to the command deck. "There's no way he could have captured that many ships so quickly." "You underestimate the Emperor's resources," Zixara said sadly. "His fleet is vast, and he has agents throughout this sector of the galaxy. If he says he has 3,000 humans, then he probably has them." Maya stared at the asteroid field outside, her mind racing. "What happens if I surrender? Does he really let everyone else go?" "Come." "No," General Thexmore said firmly. "Korthax never honors deals with people he considers beneath him. He would execute you publicly to cement his legitimacy, then sell your people to the highest bidder. Then what other choice do we have? We fight, came a voice from behind them. Jenna had also made her way to the command deck, followed by several other humans. Maya, I've been talking to the others. We're not going back to being prisoners. But 3,000 people will remain slaves forever if we don't try to save them, Jenna interrupted. You told us yesterday that we could trust you. Now we're telling you that we trust you enough to fight for our freedom. Maya looked around the command deck at the faces surrounding her. Humans and Zephyrians alike were watching her with expressions of determination and hope. The weight of their expectations felt heavier than any crown. Counselor, she said finally, tell me about this resistance you mentioned. How many people are we talking about? Zixara activated a holographic display that showed the Zephyrian Empire in all its vast glory. Hundreds of star systems, thousands of worlds, billions of people living under imperial rule. The resistance isn't centralized, she explained. It's made up of cells scattered across the empire, usually organized by species or geographic region. Some are Zephyrians, who remember the old monarchy. Others are enslaved peoples who dream of freedom. How do we contact them? Each cell has a different communication protocol, but they all monitor certain frequencies for specific signals. Your ship's royal authentication codes will serve as proof of your identity. Maya studied the display, looking at the vast distances between star systems. How long would it take to unite them into an actual fighting force? Months, possibly years, General Thexmore admitted. The Empire has spent centuries keeping different groups isolated from each other to prevent exactly this kind of uprising. We don't have years. We don't even have 12 hours. Then we need a different approach, Robert said. What if instead of trying to build an army, we strike at the heart of their power? Everyone turned to look at the engineer. Explain, Maya said. Roberts moved to the tactical display and began pointing at different parts of the Imperial fleet formation. I've been studying their ship configurations while we've been hiding out here. Their command structure is heavily centralized. Everything flows through the Emperor's flagship. Yes, General Thexmore said slowly. It's called the Throne Eternal. The Emperor rules the entire fleet from that single ship. So if something happened to that ship, the entire fleet would be thrown into chaos, Zixara finished. But Roberts, that ship is the size of a small moon. It has more defensive systems than some planets. Not to mention, General Thexmore added, it's surrounded by the most powerful warships in the Imperial fleet. Getting close to it would be suicide. Maya was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical display. Something was nagging at her. Some instinct that felt important but which she couldn't quite grasp. What if we didn't try to destroy it? She said suddenly. What if we tried to capture it? See the 7. The suggestion was met with stunned silence. Maya, Jenna said gently. That's even more impossible than destroying it. Is it, though? Maya turned to Zixara. You said the ship systems respond to royal bloodline. What about other Imperial technology? The counselor's eyes widened as she understood what Maya was suggesting. The Throne Eternal was built on the foundation of the original royal flagship. If the genetic locks are still in place, then I might be able to override the Emperor's control of his own ship, Maya finished. General Thexmore shook his head. Even if that's possible, you'd have to get aboard the flagship first, and it's surrounded by destroyers with enough firepower to vaporize us the moment we decloak. Not if we surrender, Maya said quietly. The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Everyone on the command deck stared at her in shock. Absolutely not, Thexmore said. That's exactly what Korthax wants. Yes, it is, Maya agreed. Which is why he won't expect us to turn it against him. She stood up from the command chair and activated the ship's communication system. General, you said the resistance cells monitor certain frequencies. Can we reach all of them simultaneously? Yes, but do it. I want to send a message to every resistance fighter in the Empire. Thexmore reluctantly began working on the communication array. Within minutes, He had established connections to dozens of different resistance cells across the galaxy. "You're connected," he said. "They're all listening." Maya took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Maya Chen, rightful heir to the Zephyrian throne. For 300 years, you have waited for the return of the royal line. That wait is over." She could hear murmurs and exclamations coming through the communication system as word spread through the resistance networks. "In 6 hours, I will surrender myself to Emperor Korthax aboard his flagship. This is not defeat. It is the beginning of the end of his tyranny. When you see the Throne Eternal's communications array begin broadcasting the old royal codes, you will know that the time has come to rise up." "Maya, what are you doing?" Jenna whispered. "What I have to do," Maya replied. She continued speaking to the resistance. "Coordinate your attacks with each other. Strike at Imperial installations simultaneously. Make them fight on 1,000 fronts at once. Show the galaxy that the Empire is not invincible." Endin. The responses from the resistance cells were immediate and enthusiastic. Voices in a dozen different languages pledged their support and confirmed they would be ready. Maya ended the transmission and turned to face the people on the command deck. "General, I need you to modify our surrender signal to include specific coordinates where the Imperial forces can pick us up. Choose a location that will require the Emperor to bring his flagship close to an asteroid field." "You're planning an ambush?" "I'm planning to get aboard that ship with as much advantage as possible." Over the next few hours, Maya worked with General Thexmore and his soldiers to prepare for what might be the most dangerous gamble in galactic history. They modified the ship's systems to hide certain capabilities, prepared concealed weapons and equipment, and rehearsed their approach to the Imperial flagship. The human colonists were briefed on the plan and given a choice. They could remain on the royal ship and try to escape to safety, or they could volunteer to be part of the infiltration team. Every single one of them chose to fight. "We came out here looking for a new home," Robert said when Maya tried to talk them out of it. "Turns out, our new home is wherever you're leading us." When the time came to send the surrender signal, Maya found herself surrounded by friends who had become something like family over the past few months. Jenna, Roberts, and dozens of other humans stood alongside Zixara, General Thexmore, and his Zephyrian soldiers. "Imperial flagship Throne Eternal. This is the ship carrying the pretender Maya Chen," Maya broadcast. "I formally surrender myself and my followers to Emperor Korthax. Transmitting coordinates for pickup." The response came within minutes. "Pretender vessel. You will approach the designated coordinates at minimum power. Any deviation from the prescribed course will result in immediate destruction." "Understood," Maya replied. As they piloted toward the rendezvous point, the full scope of the Imperial fleet became visible. The Throne Eternal was indeed the size of a small moon. Its hull bristling with weapon systems and hangar bays, smaller ships swarmed around it like insects around a giant predator. "Second thoughts?" General Thexmore asked as they approached the flagship's docking bay. Maya looked at the massive ship that represented everything wrong with the Empire. The enslavement of entire species, the conquest of peaceful worlds, the suppression of freedom throughout the galaxy. "No," she said. "No second thoughts." The royal ship was tractored into a docking bay that could have held 100 vessels their size. As they touched down, Maya could see Imperial troops surrounding them, their weapons ready. "Everyone remember the plan," she said over the ship's intercom. "We're prisoners until we're not. Stay alert, stay together, and trust that the ship's systems will recognize my authority when the time comes." The docking bay doors opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Maya stood up from the command chair and walked toward the exit, her friends and allies falling into step behind her. Emperor Korthax was waiting for them personally, flanked by his elite guard. He was taller than other Zephyrians, with elaborate cybernetic enhancements that made him look more machine than organic being. His eyes glowed with artificial light as he studied Maya. "So," he said, his voice echoing through the massive docking bay, "this is the child who thinks she can reclaim a throne that was lost before her species even learned to build starships." Maya looked up at the Emperor who had enslaved her people and countless others. Despite her fear, she kept her voice steady. "I am Maya Chen, daughter of the House of Zephyr, and you are trespassing on my ship." Korthax laughed. A sound like grinding metal. "Your ship? Child. Everything in this empire belongs to me." "We'll see about that," Maya said quietly. As the Imperial guards moved to surround her group, Maya placed her hand on a small device concealed in her clothing. It was connected to the royal ship's communication array, and when activated, it would broadcast the royal authentication codes to every system on the throne eternal. The revolution was about to begin, and it would start from the very heart of the empire itself. Maya smiled at the Emperor's surprised expression as klaxons began blaring throughout his flagship. The ship's artificial intelligence had recognized her genetic signature and was already beginning to transfer command authority. "Welcome aboard my ship, Emperor," she said. "I hope you enjoy your stay." The battle for the Zephyrian Empire had begun, and humanity's newest queen was about to show the galaxy what human determination could accomplish when backed by royal blood and the dream of freedom.